I had this epiphany of, what I teach, which is you have to become the CEO of the company you want in the future. Meaning you have to operate like them, plan like them, show up like them, take action like them, and be that CEO before you can have it. And I swear to you, rushing around everywhere is keeping you in a state of fight or flight. You have to own your day and not let your day own you.
Embodied CEOs don't chase trends, they pave the way. They lead from within, moved by purpose, unshaken by noise. When you are the source, you do not need permission.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. I'm in a massive batch recording day. Last day in my studio. By the time this episode comes out, I'll have been moved into my new studio, but I wanted to give myself enough space and time to kind of get it set up and get all moved in there. And I'm going to restart up some guest interviews. And just excited for the new space and the new location. My plan is to be able to host like in-person VIP days there as well. And then for our live event, when we have our live event a few times a year, it'll be a spot where if there's somebody at the event who can do a podcast, we're going to be right there downtown. It's so exciting. So in today's episode, I thought I would talk about a few things that are basically bringing me great results right now, both personally, how I'm showing up as a CEO, and then also the business and what's working in the business. So I'm in a season of a lot of abundance. I'm really grateful right now in the business with a lot of momentum and things that are working really well and just like clicked into place. And I'm super excited about some of them I have talked about on the podcast, but I'm going to kind of bring it into one place because not only am I in a season that is growth and exciting and momentum in the business, which feels great. Also, I myself am very grounded and very present and in a good place energetically with all the growth that's happening. Sometimes when you experience a lot of growth in business, it can kind of derail your presence and energy and nervous system a little bit because there's so much happening. And my days are definitely very full. There's a lot of things thrown my way right now. Just with growth comes that kind of experience in business. We have new processes and things that we're creating and rolling out and refining. Like this year has so far been a very, very great, very grounded year. So I figured I'd share some things that I'm personally doing and that we did in the business. I'll start with the business. Two things that just like turned the corner for us and new level unlocked of like massive fast growth is number one, we shifted our offers. So I shared this on the podcast. I won't go into it a ton. There's been a few podcasts on it, but I stand behind implementation is what people are buying. And I had this epiphany of just like, I have the done for you team. Why don't we stop selling programs where we're teaching people how to do things and they still have work that they have to do with their marketing, whether it's copy or building their funnels or the tech. And, we can give all the templates and make it as easy as possible for them, but it's still a barrier. It's still a burden that people have to carry and everyone's overwhelmed and everyone's at max capacity. And so how can we make this as easy as possible for people? So we changed all our offers to implementation, 3 different levels. So we can serve an entrepreneur at any level. They just like have a specific spot that they go. And it's crushed both on sales because it's a great offer and it is done for you, sold at the cost of a program, but also in delivery. It is a well-oiled, like we're still continually refining it, but it is really cool to be able to put the team all working towards this kind of output of quality done for you work in an efficient way, but in an effective way. And then how we're selling it is through weekly live webinar that I'm doing. So every week I do the same webinar, but we run cold traffic to that webinar, for the most part cold traffic. And so we get consistent leads, and it's this combination of consistency with live, because live always converts better, especially for me, for really everyone. And it's to the point where it's like all I do is show up for the webinar. It's basically an automated funnel, except for the delivery is live. But all of like the email automations and everything that's happening is all automated. The only thing we have to do every week is that my team has a process of changing the date and time to the next week. But we've got it dialed down. I think I've done almost 8 now. So like 8 weeks of these, which is wild. Like you get really good at that presentation because you do it so many times, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So that has created a lot of consistency and kind of balance, because in my business, one thing that has been, I guess, a challenge that we've run into is I would do big live launches. And so we get this huge surge of sales calls and sales. And then when I wasn't live launching, it would go really quiet and slow. And so it would create this like massive surge, and then it would die down. And the surge isn't always good either, because then it's this like huge surge on delivery, whereas this is more consistent. It's a lower volume of people coming to the weekly live webinar, but it's like this steady, consistent, number of calls, number of sales. So it's a lot easier on delivery as well. So that's working really well. And the webinar is converting insane. Like I've had a couple of webinars that converted 45%, if you know, you know, of the people on the webinar to book a call. So I was pumped and they've all been good. Those were my records. I had 2 weeks at that. But it's fun. I love it. So that's what's working really well in the business, is a combination of a really solid, consistent marketing strategy. We're getting consistent daily leads in from this webinar, and then we're getting weekly calls, weekly sales at a very good cadence. We are starting to scale the webinar at a very good cadence, very consistent cadence, closing the sales, and then pairing that with really good offers, which at this point, the implementation offer at the price of a program is just crushing it, because it's taking the work off of the individual who isn't really ready for done for you, but now they can get done for you at the price that they would be paying for a program. So those are two things in the business that are crushing. And then I want to talk about things I'm doing that are working really well for me to stay grounded and have capacity for the growth. So the first I've talked about on the podcast, and I'm going to bring it up a bit again in one place, which is after my live event in January, which was mid-January, I had this epiphany of, what I teach, which is you have to become the CEO of the company you want in the future. Meaning you have to operate like them, plan like them, show up like them, take action like them, and be that CEO before you can have it. And after my live event, I had this epiphany of like, I want to grow this live event, and the next one I want to sell 50 tickets. And I realized the way that you are operating, Emily, you are not going to sell 50 tickets. You're not going to be able to have an event at that capacity, that volume, because you're not operating as the CEO and the facilitator who can hold that. Because I was doing everything, and I would brag about this because I can do this really well, is everything last minute. Like I would do everything right up until the wire. Even a webinar, I'm doing the slides the day before and up until the webinar. Something that, is a big deliverable the next day. It's like that pressure for me. I knew I would always get it done, so why get it done early? And I think I've always been like that. The live event, it's like there is an element of my live events that have to have flow. I cannot rigidly plan my live event because I just can't. Like that's part of the magic. But I could prepare more, and I would wait up until the last minute to prepare for it. And it would be amazing. I've never delivered something not amazing doing this, but I can only carry so much when I operate that way. And so after my live event in January, I decided, between that and then I also read the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, and about relentlessly pursuing a life of slow pace. And I just loved it so much, because I was like, we so much live in this world of constantly hurrying, constantly busy. Like I see it all the time. Everybody you talk to is like, I'm so busy. I have so much going on. And honestly, I do have so much going on. Like my days are packed, but it's almost like I took the dial at which my operator, goes at, and I just like turned it down a few notches. And so I'm still doing a lot, because that's just how I'm wired. And I also have a lot going on. I have 3 kids. I have a business. I train 10 hours a week. but I just like gave myself a little bit more space. So instead of trying to rush to the gym and barely have enough time to get my training in and be rushing out to pick up my kids on time, it's like, why not just give myself 20 more minutes? Instead of saying, okay, next week I'm hosting this challenge and I have to do 3 days of content, I'll do it at the end of the week on Friday. I'm thinking about it a week and a half before. I'm thinking about it 2 weeks before, and I'm planning it out. Instead of saying, I'm moving my podcast studio on a Friday, I can record by that Monday and be able to have Tuesday's episode, which is 100% what I would have done. Here we are recording 2 weeks out so that I give myself a full week buffer. And it's weird. It's like, it's not that I'm getting less done. I am just giving myself that much more buffer. It's just a little bit. And being a little bit more intentional with how I look ahead and how I get things done, and just slowing down my pace. Instead of like having to now rush in the car because I'm up until the wire of trying to get to the next thing, I have space. It's like I'm early. I'll get to picking my kids up from their CrossFit. I'm 10 minutes early. I get to an appointment. I'm 5 minutes early. Like, I don't know exactly what happened, but I just decided to make this change. And since then, I have not been late to a single thing. And I just don't rush anymore. And does it mean there's some days that I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get to that? Yeah, there's some days that I'm like, okay, I didn't get to that. I got to rework things and get to it tomorrow. But I also noticed this with my kids too. One of the reasons that I homeschool, we homeschool our kids, and they do this hybrid homeschool and farm school setup. And so there's 2 days a week that I drive them to this school. But I love it because we don't have to be there at a certain time, and we don't have to be there early. It's 9 o'clock. And if we get there at 9:10, it's fine. And one of the reasons I made this decision, when we made the decision to homeschool, was I hated the mornings. I hated having to wake my kids up. I felt like they weren't getting enough sleep. Wake them up and then rush out the door. Get the lunches, you're fighting your kids, like, get out of bed, come on. And then everybody's stressed. And then there's fighting and you're frustrated because you're like, for the third time, put your shoes on, you know. And so when we made the decision, this was honestly one of my biggest reasons. There was 2 big reasons. One, my kids were asking to homeschool. And I'm not saying homeschool for everyone is the right choice. I am saying I wish that mornings didn't have to be like this for kids. I think it's a lot of stress on their nervous system and ours. Like, I remember the mornings I dropped my kids off after there was a fight or whatever, and it was stressful. And I was like, that sucked that we started our day like that. So one of the reasons I chose to homeschool was that. And then the other was, as they started activities, it would be like, rush out the door in the morning, get home, eat a snack, rush to activities, get home, dinner, bed. And I was like, I'm never going to see my kids. So anyways, that was the right choice for us, but it was because of that. And so the other day, my son had a friend coming to pick him up to take him to jiu-jitsu, and he lost a little bit of track of time. And so they got to the house and he wasn't ready. And he was stressed. He was like trying to find his gi and get his outfit together. And I was like, babe, calm down. It's okay. They're fine waiting for 2 minutes. Like, take a breath, put your clothes on. You don't have to be like stressing and rushing yourself. I'll get your water. Take a deep breath. Like, there's no emergency. If you make them wait for a minute or 2 minutes, if they can't wait, I'll drive you. And I could just see him just like calm down instantly. And that feeling of rushing, I used to live every single day like that. Like, just rushing from one thing to the next, barely able to grab a snack, barely able to eat. And I would honestly be like proud of it. Like, look how much I got done in a day. But I feel like what that does to your system is it puts you in this like reactive, very stressful mode. So what I've noticed is, by slowing down, I have so much more patience with my kids. I have so much more capacity when someone does have something they need. And let's say, when this happens with a team, like, they're stressed, they're in a heightened emotional state, and they come to you, right? And sometimes if you're not regulated, you mirror that. And you're like, well, I better be stressed out now because you're panicking, so I'm going to panic. And a good leader is able to bring that down and is able to stay super grounded. But you can only do that if you're regulated. And I swear to you, rushing around everywhere is keeping you in a state of fight or flight. We all are living that way. And if you just could make this shift, like, you're going to feel such a big difference. I've seen these videos on Instagram of people saying, like, reminding myself there's not a tiger chasing me or whatever. And they're like cleaning, like rapidly cleaning or like grabbing things around the house. And then it's like, oh, like I can just slow down. And you don't even take longer. It's just like the pace at which you do it. But I also, within my business, have started to look ahead better. And, I used to say that this was my superpower, that doing things last minute, doing a lot of things fast was my superpower. And it is. Like, I still can do that. I'm very fast. I'm efficient. I'm very efficient. And I still am really efficient. And I still do a lot in the day. But I just turned the dial down a little bit and gave myself a little extra padding. Now, does this mean that I'm like sitting there eating a 1 hour lunch really slowly? No, I still eat lunch at my desk. I still am doing something while I'm eating. I still sometimes eat lunch in the car. That maybe I shouldn't, but that is how I am, is like, I personally don't like to just go out and sit and eat when it's like I only have so much time to work. I think that's what it is for me, is I really only work from 9:30 to 1:32 every day. So I need to get the most out of that time. And so I choose to eat while I'm working. But I give myself padding to get from one place to the next, or record the podcast ahead of time, or create the content ahead of time. And so my epiphany was, you're not going to have the event at the size that you want until you become that CEO. So that's one big shift and thing that I've been doing. The other thing that I've been doing, and I've done this for a long time, but it's working really well kind of paired with this, is I am constantly looking at where my time allocation is going. And so at the end of every day, I plan the next day. I take, here's the things that have to get done the next day. Either they didn't get done today or they're on the list of priority for the week. And I plan the next day. And that helps me a lot come into my day with exactly what I need to focus on. Because I think it's constantly a game of, how can you not be reactive? Like, as an entrepreneur, as a human, but as an entrepreneur, especially with a team, especially with a business as it grows, you have to own your day and not let your day own you. And so what are the things you need to do to keep yourself in a constant state of being intentional, of not reacting to Slack, email, team needs this? I get asked so many questions in a day between team members, mastermind, girls that I support, texts from friends. Like, I get asked, there's a lot of communication thrown at me in a day. I'm very intentional with when I respond to it and what I respond to. And I will mark things on red and wait for hours, because I know right now my energy and time allocation is not going to that. And I have my list of what it is I need to do. I know how much time I have to work that day. I know what my meetings look like. And I have my list of, this is what has to get done. And I'm pairing that with, how can I look ahead and how can I plan better? So I'm doing something that's, for next week at the beginning of this week. And then I'm looking at, okay, next week I have a bunch of live trainings I'm teaching. I'm hosting a challenge and I'm teaching all these live trainings. So basically nothing but that's going to get done. So I'm giving myself space, even though those calls are only, 1 or 2 hours here in the day. I know that the rest of my time is just going to be a little bit of responding to communication, keeping things moving. I'm not going to be able to work on a project or do something. So I guess I got more realistic as well with how long something takes me and what type of, energy it needs and capacity it's going to take, so that I could, allocate that and not be rushing. And so for me, in a season of business growth, which is exciting, and it's pushing, like, we need to hire, it's pushing support that we need, places I have to step in the business, it's been critical that I stay very grounded, that I stay very present, that I stay regulated, so I have the capacity to hold the next level. And I think the combination of these two things is what is unlocking a massive next up level. Because if I was operating as I was before, I don't think we could handle the growth. I don't think that I would be able to make the decisions, be able to hold the company at that level and that growth. And then the last thing that I think, is something that I've focused on and been intentional with is I continually ask myself, what would make me feel alive? Because I think it's so easy as a human and somebody who is disciplined and is very routine based to get into a life where it's like every day is like the same. Not necessarily doing the same things, but it's like get up, work, train, my kids. And that is kind of my life. So the moments that I can find something that make me feel alive, whether that's like music in the car by myself or taking my kids out on an adventure on the weekend, that is what life's about to me. And so I never want to get so monotonous in my routines that I forget that. And that all of a sudden a month has gone by and I haven't really lived. Like I've shown up, I've gotten stuff done, I've, improved myself and implemented things, but I haven't really lived. So for me, that's partly my values, but this helps me feel like I am really living, and like why I do what I do in my business is so that I can have more of those experiences. That's one of the whys, right? And so a lot of it happens in the small things. And I will ask myself that question some mornings of like, what would make me feel alive today? Is it calling a friend? Is it calling my brother? Is it watching some funny videos? Is it, dance party with my kids? Is it doing something different with them tonight instead of our usual routine? Is it going for a walk around the neighborhood? Like what is something that could shake it up a little bit and make me feel more alive? And that's bringing joy. And I think also that just adds something to time. It almost like slows time down because you are experiencing a lot of things. I think when you do the same thing every day, that's when time goes so fast because you're like in this robotic mode. I don't know. So those are things that are working right now for the business, for me in this season of growth, and hopefully you can pull something out, pull some inspiration out, whether that's for the business, for yourself as a CEO, or both. I'm really pushing this, let's stop hurrying everywhere. So let me know if that inspired you and you're going to try it out. It will change your life. It's just like it's an internal shift and an internal decision that doesn't even impact productivity. It's like how you're choosing to show up, and everything becomes clearer on what you can handle, what you can't, what you're going to say yes to, what you're going to say no to based on that. All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time.